What was Cash Money doing when P and No Limit was?
I never knew him of no streets.
Like not in the streets?
Nah, kind of knew him because he played basketball. Then they left and came back. I ain't understand it. Went to Pride. They flies to California. Then Slim to come in there and said, "Man, I'm sorry, we can't do the deal." He said, because Master P said, if we sign y'all, he leave. Cash Money No Limit, that was real.
Yeah,
you know, they ain't with us. We ain't
Calio Magnolia Park.
Nah, that real. Went to Pride. They flies to California. Then Slim to come in there and said, "Man, I'm sorry, we can't do the deal." He said, because Master P said, if we sign y'all, he leave.
I could have brought Cash Money back in the days, you know, but they was from another side of New Orleans. I'm from another side, so it never really worked.
YouTube, welcome back to the channel, man. What the hell, the TV, where everything we react to here, you gonna be like, what the hell, man? Yeah, man. Hope everybody having a blessed day out there today, bro. And today we got a fire reaction video. We got Birdman, well, not Birdman. We got Cash Money versus No Limit, man. In this video, it's gonna break down a lot of keys, facts, a lot of history behind them two counts, and misunderstanding the beef they had. You know, even though it wasn't, you know, it wasn't publicly announced that, you know, them two counts had problems, but everybody in the streets, especially in New Orleans, knew it was a feud, it was a little tension between the two counts, by them not ever working together, you feel me? So I ain't gonna lie, I always wanted to know, bro, what it would have been like if them two counts would have, you know what I'm saying, worked together, you feel me? You know, because at one point in time, they was the two most biggest things in New Orleans, like in the game, period. You feel me? You know, No Limit, they opened the doors, they paved the way, you feel me? And soon after that, Cash Money came right behind them here. And yeah, so in like 98, 99, them two counts was the two biggest things, one of the two biggest labels in the game, period. You feel me? But it wouldn't be soon till No Limit loses they fuel and Cash Money just took over everything. You feel what I'm saying? But look, man, we're gonna get into this reaction video. Thank y'all for clicking on the video, man. Let's go.
If you ask Master P or Birdman if there was ever any beef, they'll both tell you no. But according to the streets and longtime fans, the truth might be a lot darker. Not only was there tension, but things allegedly turned deadly. For instance, Master P came from the Calliope projects and Birdman from the Magnolia projects, and those hoods didn't exactly get along.
We're from two different projects, so
Right, that's what I'm saying.
it just didn't never mix, and me and his relationship never mixed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe the artists, but we didn't with each other. So.
Then throw in Birdman's brother, Terrence "Gangsta" Williams, who has been linked to as many as 40 murders.
In the state, you confessed to killing how many people?
40.
What? You confessed to killing 40 people in the state?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Word even got around that Birdman and Slim may have used their own brother as a hitman. One of the alleged targets was Master P's cousin, who was reportedly killed. That hit supposedly triggered P to put a bounty on Gangsta in return.
Master P, it was a rumor that it started from 15,000 to 30,000 to 100,000 out on me.
So how deep did this beef really run? Let's break it down. So back in the early to mid 90s, both Master P and Birdman were laying the foundations for something massive. Two independent record labels that would not only put New Orleans hip-hop on the map, but completely shift the rap game. Master P kicked things off with No Limit Records in 1991. At first, it wasn't even a label, it was just a little record store in Richmond, California, where he had moved after the tragic death of his brother. But even then, P was thinking big. It wasn't long before he turned that small shop into a fully functioning label and eventually brought it back home to New Orleans. And that's when the real takeover began. By the mid-90s, Master P had turned No Limit into a southern powerhouse. He secured an unheard-of distribution deal with Priority Records, an 85/15 profit split in his favor, which was almost a...
To this day, still one of the rawest, sickest deals you can ever make, dog, in rap history. Like, you gotta salute and give it up to P, man. Real talk, man.
heard of in the industry at the time. That deal gave P the leverage to flood the market with music like never before. He was dropping projects every couple of weeks, non-stop. No Limit's artist roster was a deep bench of both local legends and national names. You had his brothers, C Murder and Silky the Shocker, Mia X holding it down for the women, Mystical coming through with that wild energy, and even Magnolia native Soulja Slim, who originally went by Magnolia Slim, repping hard. No Limit was a machine, and every release came with that iconic tank logo and those wild, blinged out pen and pixel covers that became their signature.
Hey, then back in that day, you know, like album covers, that's how people used to determine if they want to buy your album or not, you know, because they never heard the album yet, but they'll go buy the album cover. Man, No Limit always had some of the sickest album covers, dog. Like, just looking at the album cover will make you want to buy that mug, you hear me? But man, yeah, man, I remember going to Walmart. They used to have the little headsets. You can listen to the music, you know, it ain't have cursing, but like just to be able to listen to the music, that shit that was raw.
The branding was genius. Military themes, No Limit Soldier's chants, and Master P's constant message of ownership and independence. In 1998 alone, the label dropped a jaw-dropping 23 albums. That year, you couldn't walk into a record store or turn on BET without running into a No Limit release. P's own Ghetto D went triple platinum, and by the end of the decade, No Limit had sold over 75 million records. It was a cultural movement, and it opened the doors for Southern rap in a way nobody had seen before. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Birdman and his older brother Slim were quietly building their own empire with Cash Money Records. Like No Limit, Cash Money also launched in 1991, but their grind was more localized in the beginning. Throughout the early 90s, they were releasing underground records from artists like UNLV, Pimp Daddy, and a young Lil Wayne, who was still a kid in a duo called the BGs with BG for a long time. Cash Money was strictly a New Orleans thing. Their records were mostly sold in Louisiana, and they hadn't yet broken into the national scene. But while No Limit was storming the charts, Cash Money was reloading and getting ready for a breakout of their own. Then came 1998. That's when Birdman and Slim shocked the industry by locking in a $30 million distribution deal with Universal Records. It was one of the biggest in hip-hop history at the time, and that deal gave birth to the next wave of New Orleans rap stars. The Hot Boys, Juvenile, BG, Turk, and Lil Wayne became the face of Cash Money's rise, alongside the Big Timers, which was...
Say, once they made that deal, bro, with Universal, wasn't no looking back. Wasn't no looking back for Cash Money, bro. Like, you got to give it up for No Limit. They did their thing. They really paved the way. They opened the doors, you feel me? They was the blueprint. But Cash Money took it and just, man, took it to a whole nother level, you know what I'm saying? And just two big powerhouses from New Orleans, you know, that was raw. That was raw, man.
Birdman and the genius producer Manny Fresh. Juvenile's 400 Degrees dropped that same year, and it went fourplex platinum, fueled by the classic anthem, Back That Thing Up. Suddenly, the Magnolia Projects had their own national superstars to rival anything coming out of Calliope. What made Cash Money stand out, though, was the sound. While No Limit had a raw, aggressive, brass-heavy vibe, Cash Money leaned into the bounce, New Orleans' own dance-heavy subgenre. Manny Fresh's beats were funky, melodic, and infectious. And lyrically, they came with that hustler swagger, flashy, braggadocious, and full of charisma. By 1999, Cash Money was everywhere. Bling bling became part of everyday slang. For a while in the late 90s, No Limit and Cash Money were basically running the game side by side. You couldn't mention Southern rap or even mainstream hip-hop without bringing up one of those two camps. It was like New Orleans had two kings at the same time, and each kingdom from the ground up. By early 1999, things hit a boiling point. That was when people really started picking sides. Debates were full of No Limit or Cash Money arguments. Up until that point, No Limit had been sitting at the top of the hill. They had the quantity, the branding, and the mainstream love. But around 99, Cash Money came swinging hard. To fans, it felt like a real rivalry. But if you looked at it on the surface, you wouldn't find any of the usual signs of a rap beef. Master P and Birdman weren't dropping diss tracks. They weren't dissing each other in interviews, and there were no on-stage or backstage run-ins. Publicly, they played it cool, but behind the scenes, there was tension. According to people who were there, the friction wasn't about personal beef between the artists. A lot of the rappers from both sides actually knew each other growing up or through the scene. Turk from Cash Money even said it himself. I wouldn't say the artists didn't get along. I'd say probably P and Baby. They had their reasons.
Say, things was different then too, bro. And you got to respect the fact that it didn't go there to that point, you know, because it could have easily. Like, all it took, and they knew that, all it took was for somebody to get on a record and say F this side, F that side, and man, it was gonna turn up from there because both camps had real street niggas rocking with them, you know what I'm saying, politicking with them, you hear me? So, you know, it wouldn't have took much, bro, you know what I'm saying? So that's why they ain't never go to that point, you know, and what's understood ain't gotta be explained, you feel me? So you got to respect them, you know what I'm saying, as being real businessmen too, you feel me? They know that would have messed up the business and all that, man. So that's respect.
Why we never did anything together.
I wouldn't say the artists didn't get along. I would say probably P and Baby. You know, they probably had their little, you know, reasons of why we never did anything together.
So, while there wasn't any obvious animosity among the troops, the generals, Master P and Birdman, clearly had their own silent war going on. They weren't throwing punches, but they were definitely making strategic moves to outshine and outmaneuver each other. One of the earliest sparks came from a business deal gone wrong, or blocked, depending on who you ask. In the mid-90s, when both No Limit and Cash Money were hunting for major distribution deals to take their operations to the next level, Master P landed first with that historic Priority Records deal. Naturally, Birdman and Slim tried to follow the same path. They met with Priority executives, hoping to secure a deal for Cash Money. But according to Birdman, that meeting got cut short quick. Why? Because Master P stepped in and threatened to walk if Priority even thought about signing his hometown rivals. Birdman would later say, "They said because Master P said, if we sign y'all, he's leaving." And since No Limit was Priority's golden goose at the time, they backed off.
Went to Priority. They flies to California. Then Slim to come in there and said, "Man, I'm sorry, we can't do the deal." He said, because Master P said, if we sign y'all, he leave.
Eventually, Birdman took Cash Money elsewhere, landing that monster $30 million deal with Universal. But it's safe to say he never forgot how that first attempt played out. To many fans, that whole situation explains a lot of the quiet tension between the two camps. It felt like Master P was actively protecting his territory, making sure Cash Money couldn't eat off the same plate. And that wasn't the only time P seemed to move in response to Cash Money's momentum. In 2000, Master P dropped a straight-to-video action movie called Hot Boys. Now, the movie had nothing to do with Birdman's group, the Hot Boys. But to fans, the name wasn't random. The Hot Boys were peaking at that point, and that title felt like a slick play on their fame. Was it a diss? Not directly, but it was enough to raise eyebrows. A lot of people took it as a low-key jab, or at the very least, a smart and slightly petty attempt to ride the wave Cash Money had created. Then there was the launch of the 504 Boys, another Master P move that didn't go unnoticed. The group name referenced New Orleans area code 504 and felt a lot like No Limit's answer to the Hot Boys. Again, it wasn't an outright shot, but the timing and branding felt very deliberate. Another layer to the quiet war between Master P and Birdman was the rumor that, behind closed doors, P was trying to poach some of Cash Money's most promising talent. Turk later came out and said that back in the late 90s, there were whispers that Master P tried to sign both him and a young Lil Wayne to No Limit.
You had mentioned that there was that Wayne was considering signing to No Limit.
Yeah, we both consider signing to No Limit.
Now, P has never confirmed that move, but the rumor itself speaks volumes. If there's even a hint of truth to it, it paints a picture of just how competitive things were between the two labels. It would have been
A lot of people were going to No Limit too, bro, because they know P was popping it off. I ain't gonna lie. Like, in the height of No Limit career, P was popping it off. Like, even Snoop said it. A lot of them niggas said, man, you go to No Limit, you gonna get popped off a big bag, you gonna have a house, and you gonna have some cars. You hear me? You know what I'm saying? So hey, that's everything a nigga want. You feel me? And you gonna have that machine behind you. You know.
Our move. Imagine the face of Cash Money jumping ship to the rival camp. From Birdman's side, things got even more personal years later. In 2015, when Lil Wayne was locked in a public and messy battle with Cash Money over money and album delays, Master P swooped in and dropped a collaboration with Wayne called Power. On the surface, it seemed like a dope link-up between two Southern legends, but if you read between the lines, it felt like P was making a statement. For Birdman, already catching heat from the media and his own camp, that move probably stung. It looked like P was inserting himself right into Cash Money's internal drama. Still, despite all these subtle shots and behind-the-scenes shade, both men managed to keep it classy in public. Neither of them ever went on a full-blown diss campaign. You wouldn't catch Birdman bashing P in interviews, and P never made it his mission to air out Birdman's business either. They might not have liked each other, but there was a mutual respect.
Even though we just don't get on together, we don't get on. Like, I don't fake it with people. If I don't know you, I ain't hang out with you. I don't do that. Everywhere I got out, shout out to Cash Money, man, for doing what they got to do. I respect that they come from my hood. I want to see them win. I want to see them eat.
But while the bosses kept things somewhat professional, the streets told a different story. The real tension went way deeper, right?
Hey, I'm with P on that one though, for real. Like, if I don't mess with you, I don't mess with you, man. I ain't gonna fake it with you, beat around the bush, because a lot of people do that. They be wrong people they don't almost really like, but just because this person in this position or whatever the case, you know, they be faking it, man. I'm not faking it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? Because at the end of the day, we're gonna eventually bump heads and it might not go well. So, hey, I'm gonna stay in my lane, you stay in your lane, bro. And we're gonna keep it like that, you feel me?
Down to the neighborhoods these two camps came from. Master P came up out of the Calliope projects, while Birdman and the Cash Money family were rooted in the Magnolia projects. And if you know anything about New Orleans, you know these were war zones at times, with decades of beef and street history between them. By the late 90s, as both No Limit and Cash Money were blowing up, the animosity between Calliope and Magnolia was also heating up. According to people who lived through it, that tension spilled out of the streets and into the hip-hop world. One fan who lived in NOLA at the time put it plainly. There was beef between Magnolia and Calliope. A lot of bodies were dropped. And sadly, that wasn't just talk. The violence was real. People affiliated with both sides, either directly or indirectly, lost their lives. One name that always comes up when you talk about the street side of Cash Money is Terrence Gangsta Williams, Birdman's half-brother. Terrence wasn't just a regular dude from the Magnolia. He was a notorious figure in New Orleans, rumored to be tied to dozens of murders and a central figure in the original Hot Boys, the street crew, not just the rap group. He was deeply entrenched in the streets, while Birdman and Slim were building Cash Money into a machine. And it's here that things get really dark. In the late 90s, Master P's cousin Randall Watts was murdered in New Orleans. The streets started buzzing, pointing fingers at none other than Terrence Gangsta Williams. People in P's circle reportedly believed Terrence had something to do with Randall's death. And that lit a serious fire. According to Terrence himself, word on the street was that Master P was so convinced of his involvement that he allegedly put a bounty on his head. At first, the number floated around was $15,000, but over time, the rumor grew. And people started saying there was as much as $100,000 being offered for Terrence's life.
Master P. It was a rumor that it started from $15,000 to $30,000 to $100,000 hit out on me. He didn't know me, I didn't know him. And they had a rumor that I had killed his cousin.
Terrence has always denied having anything to do with Randall's murder. In a 2024 interview, he said it was all a misunderstanding. He even claimed he had a brief conversation with one of P's family members who confirmed that Master P was out for retribution. Still, Terrence says he never had a chance to talk it out with P directly, never got to explain his side of the story face to face.
Did you and Master P ever have a conversation and work things out, or?
No, never.
Whether the truth will ever be fully known is anybody's guess, but that situation shows just how real and deadly things got behind the music. But the tension between No Limit and Cash Money wasn't just one-sided. If anything, the violence and retaliation allegedly went both ways. While some of the details remain murky and unverified, the whispers in the streets were loud and constant. People talk about how close associates from each camp were either targeted or killed, supposedly as payback or part of the ongoing power struggle. One common rumor was that someone affiliated with Cash Money had something to do with the death of someone very close to Master P. Specifically, there was talk that a known hustler tied to Cash Money was behind the murder of P's brother. Now, the facts around that claim are sketchy at best, and Master P's actual brother, Kevin Miller, was reportedly killed during a robbery gone wrong, not necessarily in a targeted hit. On the flip side, there was also a rumor floating around that someone from No Limit's circle was responsible for killing Birdman's sister, but this appears to be false. None of Birdman's known sisters were killed in any kind of street violence. One of them passed away in a car accident in 2006. Still, the fact that people even believed it at the time shows how intense the atmosphere was. Now, if you're looking for an incident that's a little more documented, the early beef between No Limit's Mystical and Cash Money's Yellow Boy from UNLV is a standout example. It predates Mystical even signing with No Limit, but the energy it brought added to the overall storm. Back in 1994, Mystical's sister was tragically murdered, and he released a deeply emotional track called Murderer, where he basically called out her killer.
I fucking murdered my sister.
Street gossip at the time pointed fingers at Yellow Boy. Fast forward to 1997, Yellow Boy was shot and killed in New Orleans. A lot of people assumed it was payback, though no one was ever officially tied to it. Neither Master P nor Birdman orchestrated that conflict. It was personal between the artists, but once Mystical joined No Limit, his past beef became part of the broader tension between both camps. No Limit, whether they wanted it or not, inherited that bad blood. To make things even more chaotic, Terrence "Gangsta" Williams later claimed that the drama between No Limit and Cash Money was also fueled by outside forces. According to him, shady police officers and a local drug lord played a role in fanning the flames by deliberately spreading misinformation. In an already volatile scene like New Orleans in the 90s, it didn't take much to spark violence. A rumor could get someone hurt, or worse. It's no surprise then that Birdman and Master P barely ever crossed paths face to face back then. Even though they both repped New Orleans and lived relatively close to each other, they made sure to avoid bumping into one another. There was just too much history, and too many guys around them who were ready to ride at a moment's notice. A casual run-in could have turned deadly, so they kept their distance, probably for the best. Fast forward to more recent years, and that underlying tension still occasionally bubbles to the surface. Take what happened in 2022, for example. During a Hot Boys reunion show in New Orleans, Master P showed up on stage as a surprise guest. The appearance was apparently arranged by the city's mayor as a way to celebrate New Orleans' hip-hop legacy. But according to Terrence "Gangsta" Williams, Birdman wasn't thrilled about it. In fact, he took it as a subtle diss. From his point of view, it looked like the city was giving P a moment on his turf at his crew's event, despite their long and complicated history.
And you said that Birdman was actually upset about it because Master P and Cash Money really didn't get along historically.
It might have seemed like a small gesture on the surface, but for Birdman, it felt like the city was rubbing salt in old wounds. It served as a reminder that New Orleans loves both No Limit and Cash Money, whether Birdman is cool with that or not. That one appearance stirred up enough noise that it made headlines again in 2024, proving that this whole dynamic between P and Birdman still hits a nerve.
What was Cash Money doing when P and No Limit was popping off?
I never